I understand chemistry. I just don't understand the math. Many of your classmates sigh when they realize they are starting a chapter which requires a lot of math. There is a claim the only hard part about chemistry is all the calculations. If they could only stick to things they could memorize and things they could describe, then they would get a better grade in chemistry. This obscures 3 points. 1. The first is that there are few, if any, numerical calculations required more than addition and multiplication. If you understand basic algebra, using equations should not present any kind of difficulty. 2. The second piece of the puzzle is they are also unable to solve problems like writing a net ionic chemical equation or figuring out the molecular shape of a small molecule. Neither of these examples requires any math. What they need is to be able to solve a problem through a series of steps. In the past, they may have gotten used to solving problems with only a few steps, or problems where they more or less knew the answer ahead of time. They just added the steps as a formality. In multiple step problems, it is not a crisis of math which makes these problems difficult. It is a lack of focus, which results from a lack of organization. Both of these can be learned. 3. The third piece in having problems with the math is one of application. Every math skill any student might need has already been taken. Chemistry courses usually require certain prerequisites. Most students taking chemistry actually do have the math skills. Clearly, in terms of simply knowing how to do the math, it is not the math in and of itself that presents trouble. The problem is they have not learned well enough to look at variables as variables, regardless of whether they are x's and y's. They can do the algebra, but only under special conditions. If I only knew how to set them up. Then there are those students who see they have no trouble with arithmetic or algebra. The problem which upsets them is their inability to know where to start. Once they are able to assign values to variables, they are set to go. What they are not prepared to accept is the problem they are being asked to solve is how to set up the problem. If you have either followed what the professor has said in class or used your textbook, you realize understanding which numbers go in which slot is not enough to understand how to solve chemistry problems. Unfortunately, there is no boilerplate method of solving problems which does not require you to invest in understanding at least a few of the concepts involved. If you want to know how to set them up, the path of least resistance is to understand the concepts before you start wildly attempting to solve problems. A simple two-phase approach. A suggested method, which works, is to study example problems provided by the professor or to study example problems in the textbook. The real question here is what is meant by the word study. 1. Start each problem with pencil in hand and write down why each step was taken. Break each step in the process of solving a problem into the most fundamental steps necessary to start from the problem statement and reach the final solution. This is particularly important when a professor writes the steps of a problem on the board but does not write her explanation. It's the explanation part which is critically missed. No matter how simple, write it down. 2. When you have written all the steps down, you now move to problems which are similar to the problem you studied in the examples. Armed with your list of simple steps, you should now be able to solve the new problem. Now you should be able to face the nasty predisposition your classmates have towards why they think they have problems with chemistry and math. But for you, it will be different.